Chapter 19 The Lion and the Serpent. Harry felt a sort he very crying some kind of talisman inside his chest over the following 2 weeks. A glowing secrets that support him sought in bridges classes, and even made it possible for him to smile blandly as he looked into his terrible bleeding eyes. He and the DA were resisting he under his very nose, doing the very things she and the ministry most feared. The Wanner he was supposed to be reading Wilbur Slinkhart's book during his lessons. He dwelled instead on satisfying memories of their most recent meetings, remembering how Neville had successfully disarmed Hermione, how Colin Creevy had mastered the impediment jinx after 3 meetings, hard effort, how Parvati Petter had produced such a good reductor course that she had reduced the table crying or the snakoscopes to dust. He was finding it almost impossible to fix a regular night of the week for the DA meetings, as they had to accommodate 3 separate teams, Quidditch practice which were often rearranged due to bad weather conditions, but Harry was not sorry about this. He had a feeling it was probably better to keep the timing of their meetings unpredictable. If anyone was watching them, it would be hard to make out a pattern. Hermione's son devised a very clever method to communicate the time and date of the next meeting to all the members in case they needed to change it at short notice, because it would look so suspicious if people from different houses were seen crossing the Great Hall to take to each other too often. She gave each of the members of the DA a fake galleon. Ron became very excited when he saw the basket. At first, convinced that she was actually giving out gold. You see the numbers around the X of the coins. Hermione said, holding one up of examination at the end of their 4th meeting. The coin gleamed fat and yellow in the light from the torches. One real galleon stats just a serious number, referring to the goblin who cast the coin on these fake coins, though the numbers will change to reflect the time and date of the next meeting. The coins will grow hot when the date changes. So if you're carrying them in a packet, you'll be able to feel them. We take one each, and then Harry sets the date of the next meeting. He'll change the number on his coin, and because I've put a Protean charm on them, they'll all change to mimic his. A blank Silas greeted Hermione's word. She looked around at all the faces upward to hear their disconcerted. The face upward to hear Rizar disconcerted. Well, I thought it was a good idea, she said uncertainly. I mean, even if Umbridge asked to their out our pockets, there nothing fishy about carrying a galleon is there. But well, if you don't want to use them, you can do a Protean charm, said Terry. But yes, said Hermione, but that's not standard. That is, she said weakly. Oh, said Hermione, trying to look modest. Oh, well, yes, I suppose it is.
How come you're not in Ravenclaw? He demanded, starting an Hermione, with something close to wonder. With brains like yours? Well, the Sovereign did seriously consider putting me in Ravenclaw, darling, my sorting, said Hermione. Precisely, but it decided on Gryffindor in the end. So does it mean we're using the gallons? There was a murmur of assent, and everybody moved forward to collect one from the basket. Harry looked sideways at Hermione. You know what this reminds me of? No, it is the Death Eater's scars. Voldemort touched one of them, and all their scars bar, and they know they've got to join him. Well, yes, sighed Hermione quietly. That is where I got the idea, but you'll know it. I decided to engrave the date on bits of metal rather than of member skin. Gage, I prefer your way, said Gary, grinning as he slipped his gallon into his pocket. I suppose the only danger with this is there we might accidentally spend them. Fat change, said Ron, who was examining his own fake gallon with a sickly mournful air. I haven't got any real gallons to confuse it with. As the first Quidditch match of the season, Gryffindor versus Slytherin drove near their DA meetings were put on hold because Angelina insisted on almost daily practice. The fact that the Quidditch Cup had not been held for so long added considerably to the interest and excitement surrounding the forthcoming game. The Ravenclaws and Hufflepuffs were taking a lively interest in the outcome, for they of course would be playing both teams over the coming year, and the heads of house of the competing teams. Thus they attempted to discuss it under a decent pretense of sportsmanship, were determined to see their side's victory. Harry realized how much Professor Mr. Gordon cared about betting. Slytherin when she abstraction from giving the homework in the week leading up to the match.
Abstained from giving them homework in the week leading up to the match. I think you get enough to be getting on with at the moment, she said loftily. Nobody could quite believe their ears until she looked directly at Harry and Ron and said grimly, I'll become accustomed to seeing the Quidditch Cup in my study, boys, and I really don't want to have to hand it over to Professor Snape. So use the extra time to practice, won't you? Snape was no less a wisely partisan. He had booked the Quidditch pitch for Slytherin practice so often that the Gryffindors had difficulty getting on into play. He was also turning a deaf ear at the money reports of Slytherin apartments to hex Gryffindor players in the corridors. When Alicia Spinnet turned at the hospital wing with her eyebrows growing so thick and fast that they obscured her vision and obstructed her mouth, Snape instated that they must have obstructed her mouth. Snape instead that they must have attempted a hair-checking charm on herself and resolved to listen the 14 a witness who insisted that they had seen the 14 Slytherin keeper, Miles Bleachley, hit her from behind with a jinx while she worked at the library. Harry felt optimistic about Gryffindor's chance. They had, after all, never lost to Malfoy's team. Admittedly, Ron was still not performing to Wood's stand, but he was working extremely hard to improve. His greatest weakness was a tendency to lose confidence when he made a blunder. If he let in a goal, he became flustered and was the offer like to miss more. On the other hand, Harry had seen Ron make some truly spectacular saves when he was on form. During one make some truly spectacular saves when he was on form. During one memorable practice, he had hung one-handed from the broom and kicked the quaffle so hard away from the goal hoop that they stored the length of the pitch and through the center hoop at the other end. The length of the pitch and through the center save compared favorable with one made rest of the team felt is save compared favorably with one made recently by Barry Ryan, the Irish international keeper, against Poland top chaser Władysław Zamoyski. Even felt had said that Ron might.
It made him and George proud that they were serious consider admitting that he was related to them, something he assured Ron they'd be trying to deny for 4 years. The only thing really worrying Harry was how much Ron was allowing the tactics of the Slytherin team to upset him before they even got onto the pitch. Harry, of course, had endured this night comments for more than 4 years, so Wizards all. Hey Potty, I had Warrington's swork to knock you off your broom on Saturday. Apart from chilling, his blood made him laugh. Warrington's aims so pathetic, I'd be more worried if he was aiming for the person next to me. He reported, which made Ron and Hermione laugh and wipe the smirk off Pansy Parkinson's face. But Ron had never endured a related campaign of insults, jeers, and imitation. When Slytherin some of the 7th years and considerably larger in he was a matter as they passed in the corridors. Hot your bad book in the hospital, Winky Weasley did not laugh, but turned a delicate shade of green. When Draco Malfoy imitated Ron dropping the cloth, which he did whenever they were within sight of each other, Ron's ears glowed red, and his head shook so badly that he was likely to drop whatever he was holding at the time too. October extinguished itself in a rush of howling winds and driving rain, and November arrived, clothed as frozen iron with hard frosts every morning and icy drafts that beat at enclosing heads and faces. The sky and the ceiling of the great hall turned a pale pearly grey. The mountains around Hogwarts become snow-capped, and the temperature in the castle dropped so far that many students wore the thick protect dragon skin gloves in the corridors between lessons. The morning of the match dawned bright and cloud. When Gary awoke, he looked around at Ron's bed and saw him sitting bolt upright, his arms around his knees, staring physically into space. You all right? Said Gary. Ron nodded, but did not speak. Harry was reminded forcibly of the
time that Rowling had accidentally put a slang vomiting charm on himself. He looked just as pale and sweaty as he had done then, not to mention as reluctant to open his mouth. You just need some breakfast, Harry said graciously. Simon. The great hall was filling up fast when they arrived, the talk louder and the mood more exuberant than usual. As they passed to Slytherin table, there was an upsurge of noise. Harry looked around and saw that nearly everyone there was wearing, in addition to the usual green and silver scarves and hats, silver badges in the shape of what seemed to be crowns. For some reasons, many of them were wet at round, laughing uproariously. Harry tried to see what was written on the badges as he walked by, but he was too concerned to get Ron past their table quickly to linger long enough to read them. They received a rousing welcome at the Gryffindor table, where everyone was wearing red and gold, but far from raising Ron's spirits, the choice seemed to sap the last of his morale. He collapsed onto the nearest bench, looking as though he were facing his final meal. I must have been mental to do this, he said in a croaky whisper. Mental. Don't be sick, said Harry firmly, passing him a choice of cereals. You're going to be fine. It's normal to be nervous. I'm rubbish, croaked Ron. I'm woozy. I can't play to save my life. What was I thinking? Get a grip, said Harry sternly. Look at that save you made with your foot the other day. Even Fred and George said it was brilliant. Ron turned and turned face to Harry. That was an accident, he whispered. Miserable. I didn't mean to do it. I slipped off my brown when none of you were looking, and I was trying to get back on, and I kicked the quaffle by accident. Well, said Harry, recovering quickly from this unpleasant surprise. I feel few more accident like that, and the games in the back isn't it.
Hermione and Ginny sat down opposite them wearing red and gold scarf, gloves and roses. "How are you feeling, Ginny?" asked Ron, who was now staring into the dregs of milk at the bottom of his empty cereal bowl as though seriously considering attempting to drown himself in them. "He's just nervous," said Gary. "Well, that's a good sign. I never feel you perform as well in exams if you're not a bit nervous," said Hermione heartily. "Hello," said a vague and dreamy voice from behind them. Harry looked up. Luna Lovegood had drifted over from the Raglan table. Many people were staring at her, and a few openly laughing and pointing. She had managed to procure a hat shaped like a lion's head, which was perched precariously on her head. "I'm supporting Gryffindor," said Luna, pointing unearnestly at her head. "Look." She reached up and tapped the head with her wand. It opened its mouth wide and gave an extremely realistic roar that made everyone in the vicinity jump. "It's good, isn't it?" said Luna happily. "I wanted to have it tuned up a serpent to represent Slytherin, you know, but there wasn't time. Anyway, good luck, Ronald." She drifted away. They had not quite recovered from the shock of Luna's head before Angelina came hurrying towards them, accompanied by Katie and Alicia, whose eyebrows had mercifully been returned to normal by Madame Pomfrey. "When you're ready," she said, "we're going to go straight down to the beach, check out conditions, and change. We'll be there in a bit," Gary assured her. "Ron just got to have some breakfast." It became clear after 10 minutes, however, that Ron was not capable of eating anything more, and Gary thought it best to get him
Down to the changing rooms as they rose from the table. Hermione got up to and taking Gary's arm, she drew him to her side. "Don't let Ron see what on those Slytherin badges," she whispered urgently. Harry looked questioningly at her, but she shook her head warningly. Ron had just ambled over to them, looking lost and desperate. "Good luck, Ron," said Hermione, standing on tiptoe and kissing him on the cheek and to Gary. Ron seemed to come to himself slightly as they walked back across the great brawl. He touched the spot on his face where Hermione had kissed him, looking puzzled as though he was not quite sure what had just happened. He seemed too distracted to notice much around him, but Harry cast a curious glance at the crown-shaped badges as they passed the Slytherin table, and this time he made out the words etched onto them. With an unpleasant feeling that this could mean nothing good, he hurried Ron across the entrance hall, down the stone step, and out into the ice air. The frost grass clenched and their feet as they hurried down the sloping road towards the stadium. There was no wind at all, and the sky was a uniform pearly white, which
means the visibility would be without the drawback on direct sunlight in the eyes. Harry pointed out these encouraging factors to Ron as they walked, but he was not sure that Ron was listening. Angelina had judged Aldery and was talking to the rest of the team when they entered. Harry and Ron pulled on the ropes. Ron attempted to do his back to front for several minutes before action.
The lion and the serpent took pity on him and went to help and then said, "Down to listen to the pre-match talk while the babble of voices outside grew steadily louder as the crowd came pouring out of the towards the pitch. Okay, I've only just found out the final lineup for Lyserine," said Angelina, consulting a piece of parchment. "Last year's beaters, Derek and Ball, have left. Now, but it looks as though Montague's replay them with the usual Gorioles, rather than anyone who can fly particularly well. Their two box, Cold Crab and Foil, I don't know much about them." "We do," said Harry and Ron together. "Well, they don't look bright enough to tell one end of a room from another," said Angelina, pocketing her parchment, "but then I was always surprised Derek and Paul managed to find their way onto the pitch. Without signposts, Crab and the Goyle are in the same mold," Harry assured her. They could hear hundreds of footsteps mounting the benches of the spectators' stands now. Some people were singing, though Gary could not make out the words. He was starting to look nervous, but he knew his butterflies were nothing as compared to Ron's, who was clutching his stomach and staring straight ahead. Again his jaw set and his complexion pale gray. "It's time," said Angelina in a hushed voice, looking at her watch. "Come on, everyone, good luck." The team rose shortly the brooms and marched in single file out of the changing room and into the dazzling sunlight. A roar of sound greeted them, in which Gary could still hear singing, though it was muffled by the cheers and beats. The Slytherin team were standing, waiting for them. They too were wearing those silver crown-shaped badges. The new captain, but Montague, was built along the same lines, a Dudley with massive forearms like hairy hams. Behind him lurked Crab and Goyle, almost a large beacon stupidly in the sunlight, swinging. The new beaters bats. Malfoy stood to one side, the sunlight, giving gong on with what blonde head. He caught Gary's eye and smirked, tapping the crown spade badge on his chest. "Captains, shake hands," ordered the Emperor, Madam Hooch.
But Malfoy stood to one side, the sunlight beaming on his white blonde head. He caught Gary's eye and summoned, tapping the crowd-shaped badge on his chest. "Captains, shake hands," ordered the umpire, Madame Hooch as Angelina and Montague reached each other. Gary could tell that Monger was trying to crush Angelina's fanzer, though she did not flinch. Mouth your brows. Madame Hooch placed her fist in her mouth and blew. The balls were released, and the 14 players shot proud out of the corner of his eye Gary saw Ron strip of towel. The glow hook his sung hair, dodging a blight, and set off on a white lap of the beach, gazing around of a glint of glory. On and the other side of the stadium, Draco Malfoy was dueling Igrezen the and it's Johnson, being the clothed what a player. That girl is I've been saying it for as but she still won't go out with me. Jordan, ailed Professor McGregor, just a fun fact, Professor, adds a bit of interesting. And is she dark wordings? She's past Mongier. She's out being hit from behind by a bludger from crab. Montero had the cloven Mulger hanging back up the pitch and nice. Bludger there from George Weasley that a bludger took the head for Montague. He drops the quote, caught by Katie Bell of Gryffindor reverse. Pass it to Alicia, Spinnet and Spinnet's away. Lee Jordan's commentary ran through stadium and Gary listened. Years had as he hood through as a fistling in his ears and the din of the crowd, all yelling and bugling and singing. George Zipf's Warrington avoids a larger close call. Alicia and the crowd are leaving this just listen to them words that they're singing. And the list post to sell listen the song grows loud and clear from the sea of green and silver in the Slytherin section of the stands.
The Lion and the Serpent. Weasley cannot save a thing, he cannot block a single ring. Why slicing all things? Weasley is your king. Weasley was born in a bin. He always lets a quaffle in. Weasley will make sure we win. Weasley is our king. And Alyssa passes back to Angelina. She shouted as Harry served his insides, boiling at what he had just heard. He knew Lee was trying to drown out the sound of the singing. Come on now, Angelina looks like she's got just the keeper to beat. She shoots, she are. Batsley, the Slytherin keeper, had saved the goal that threw the castle to Warrington, who sped off with it, zigzagging in between Alyssa and Katie. The singing from below grew louder and louder as he drew nearer and nearer Ron. Weasley is our king, Weasley is our king. He always lets the coughle in. Weasley is our ring. Harry could not help himself, abandoning his search for the snitch. He turned the fireball toward Ron. A lone figure at the far end of the beach, hovering before the three goal hoops, while the massive Warrington belled. toward him, and it's Warrington with the couple. Warrington heading for goal. He's out of Bloodcare range. With just the keeper ahead, a great swell of song rose from the slincering stands below.
So is a first test for a new Gryffindor keeper, Weasley brother of Beaters, Fred and George, and a promising new talent all the time, Come on, Ron. But the scream of delight came from the Slytherin end. Ron had dived brightly, his arms wide, and the quoll had soared between them, straighting through Ron's straight central foot. Slytherin score, came Lee's voice amid the cheering and the booing from the crowds below, so that then knelt to Slytherin. Bad luck, Ron. The Slytherin sang even louder. Weasley was born in a bin. He always let the wolf in. And Gryffindor back in position, and it's Katie Bell taking up the pitch, greatly violently, so the single was now so different that he could hardly make himself heard a one beat. Weasley will make sure we win. Weasley is our king. Harry, what are you doing? Screaming Angelina, shouting past him to keep up with Katie. Get going. Harry realized that he had been stationary in a meadow for more than a minute, watching the progress of the match without sparing a thought for the whereabouts of the snitch. Horrified, he went into a dive and started circling the pitch again, staring around, trying to inner the chorus now thundering through the stadium.
There was no sign of the snitch anywhere he looked. My fight was still circling the stadium just like Harry. They passed midway around the pitch going in opposite direction, and Harry heard my fight singing loudly. Weasley was born in a bin. And it's Vorgont again. Below Lee who passes to Pusey. Pusey the off past spin. Come on now, Angelina. You can't tame him. Turns out you can't ban Ice Bludger from friend Weasley. I mean George Weasley. Oh, who cares? One of them anyway, and Vorgont drops them Quaffle and Katie Bell. Air drops into so that's Montague in the Quaffle. Slytherin Captain Montague takes the Quaffle and he's off up the pitch. Come on, nine Gryffindor block him. Harry zoomed around the end of the stadium, behind the Slytherin goal hoops, willing himself not to look at what's going on at Ron's end. As he sped past the Slytherin keeper, he heard Bletchley singing along with the great Bill. Weasley cannot save a thing. And Pusey joined Alicia again, and he's heading straight for goal. Stop it, Ron. Harry did not have to look to see what happened. There was a terrible groan from the Gryffindor, and coupled with fresh screams and applause from the Slytherins. Looking down, Harry saw the pug-faced Pansy Parkins right at the front of the stands, her back to the pitch as she conducted the Slytherin supporters who were running.
That wise lines, all think Wolfes is you king, but Windmill was nothing. There was still time for Gryffindor to catch up or catch the snitch. A few goals, and they won't be in the lead. As usually, Harry asked himself, bobbing and waving at home the other players in pursuit of something shame that turned out to be Manger's watch strap. But Ron let into more goals. There was an idea of panic in Harry desire to find the snitch, know if he could just get it soon and finish the game quickly. And Kate Bill of Gryffindor, Dodger Twice, Doug Mankin, Nice swears Katie, and she towards to Jones. Angelina Jones takes the open chance past Warrington. Past Warrington, she had in 4 goals. Come on, no Angelina Gryffindor score. It's for return to Slither and Pocket has the pupil. Harry called he Lanus. Ludicrous Leon had riding amidst the Gryffindor cheers and Phil hardened only this point in it that was nothing. They go fall back yelling, Harry dagger Bludger that grab heads and rocketing in his direction and resume his frantic scoring of the pitch, keeping on Malfoy in case he showed signs of having spotted it, but Malfoy, like him, was continuing to soar around the stadium's Serpent fruitless space towards to Warrington to Mongo back to pace. Jones intervenes. Jones takes the creepy Jones to Bill. This look good. I am bad. Bells hit by Blugget from Goyle of Slither and its pace in possession again. Vasily was born in a bin. He always lets the Gulin in Valley will make sure we.
But Harry had seen in the last. The tiny, flighter golden stitch was hovering feet from the ground at the slide there end of the pitch. He dived. In a matter of seconds, Malfoy was treading out the sky on Harry, left green and silver, blur landing flat on the brow. The stitch skiltered the flood of one of the goal hoops and scotted off toward the other side of the stage in change of direction, setting Malfoy. Was nearby. Harry pulled his firebolt around his and Malfoy, were no neck and neck. Feet from the ground, Harry lifted his right hand from his brow, stretching toe over the stage to the right. Malfoy's arm extended to reaching grouping. It was over in the two breaths despite windspans seconds. Harry fingers closing around the tight stranding ball. Malfoy's fingers skybless the back of Harry. Head half lacy. Harry pallet is drawn upward, holding the stranding ball in his hand and the Gryffindor specters screamed the apparel. They were saved. It did not matter that wrong hand landed in the choose goals nobody would remember as long as Graffinder had won. Wham! At Blunder, his Harry scratching in the small of the back and the fell forward of his brow. Lucky he was only 5 or 6 feet above the ground, having divide so long to touch the stitch, but he was winning all the same as he landed flat on the back. On the frozen pitch, he heard Madame choose string wish sleds and a lure in the stage component of cat calls angry yes yells and journeying around the Angelina's fantastic voice. Are you all right? Of course I am, said Harry grimly, taking his hands and allowing he to pat him to his feet. Madame Chus, who was zooming toward one of the sleeping players about him, so he could not see who it was this angle.
It was the slave crab, said Angelina. He on the badger at the moment he saw you'd got this news. But we won, Harry, we won. Harry heard a snort from behind him and turned around, still gulping the snooze tightly in his hand. Draco Malfoy had landed close by. White-faced with fury, he was still managing to sneer. Saint Weasley neck, haven't you? He said to Harry. I've never seen a worse keeper. But then he was born in a beam. Did you like my lyrics, Potter? Harry did not answer. He turned away to meet the rest of the team who were now learning one by one, yelling and punching the air in triumph or expert Ron, who had descended from his room over by the goalposts and was making his way slowly back to the changing rooms alone. We wanted to write another couple of pages, Malfoy called, as Katie and Alicia got Harry. But we couldn't find rhymes for fat and ugly. We wanted to think about his mother sea. Talk about sour grapes, said Angelina, casting Malfoy at the scabbard roof. We couldn't fit in useless loser either for his father, you know. Fred and George had resigned, for Malfoy was talking about. Halfway through shaking, Harry's head that Stephen looking around at Malfoy. Leave it, said Angelina at once, taking Fred by the arm. Leave it, Fred. Let him yell. He's just so he lost the jump up little. But you like the Weasley, don't you, Potter? Said Malfoy seriously. Spend holidays there and everything, don't you? Can't see how you stand the scene. But I suppose when you build that up by muzzle, even the Weasleys will smell okay. Harry grabbed a hold of George. Meanwhile, it was taking the combined efforts of Angelina, Alicia, and Katie to stop Fred leaping on.
Malfoy, who was leaving openly, Harry looked around for Madame Good, but she was still Bertan Crabbe for his illegal bludger attack. Or perhaps, said Malfoy, leering as he backed you away, you can remember what your mother's house stank like, Potter, and visit a pigsty reminds of it. Harry was not aware of releasing George. All he knew was that a second late both of them were spitting at Malfoy. He had climbed forgot that fact that all the teacher were watching. All he wanted to do was cause Malfoy as much pain as possible. Was no time to draw out his wand. He merely drew back the feet, clutching the stitch, and sent it as garden as he could into Mal's stomach. Harry, Harry, George, no. He could hear girls' voices screaming. Malfoy yelling, George swearing, a whistle blowing, and the blowing of the ground around him. But he did not care, not until somebody in the vicinity yelled, impedimento, and only when he was knocked over backward by the force of the spell did he abandon the attempt to punch every inch of Malfoy he could reach. "What do you think you doing?" screamed Madame Hooch as Harry leapt to his feet. A grantee was she who had him hit with the impediment jinx. She was holding her whistle in one hand and wand in the other. Her broom lay bent 7 feet away. Malfoy was hanging up on the ground, vamping and moaning, his nose blinded. George was sporting a swollen lip that was still being forcibly restrained by the three chaser, and Crabbe was cackling in the background. I've never seen like it back at to the castle, both of you, and straight to your head of house's office. Go howl. Harry and George, mat of the pitch, both panting, neither starting a word to each other. The hooting and jeering of the crown grew fainter and fainter until they reached the enfourth house, where they could hear until expand the sound of their own footsteps. Harry became aware that something was still struggling in the right hand there.
Knuckles, of which he had brushed against Malfoy's jaw. Looking there, he saw the switching silver wings protruding from between his fingers, struggling for release. They had barely reached the door of Professor McGonagall's office when she came marching along the corridor behind them. She was wearing a Gryffindor scarf, but tore in from her throat with shaking hands as she strove toward them, looking livid. And she said, furiously pointing to the door, "Harry and George enter." She strode around behind her deck and faced them quivering with rage as she threw the Gryffindor scarf aside. Only the floor. Will she say, "I have never seen such a disgraceful escapation"? To only one explanation yourselves. Malfoy, per voice, said Harry stiffly. Per voice, you shouted Professor McGonagall, slapping first only her deck so that her tartan beaked tin slit divers. of it and burst open, littering the floor with ginger nuts. He just lost hands. Of course, he wanted to provoke you, but one as he can have that justified what you. He insulted my parents, snarls George, and Harry's mother, but instead of leaving into Madame Hutch to sort out you decided to give an exhibition of Muggle, did you? Below Professor McGonagall, have you any idea what you? Him, George and Harry boys step out. Dolores Umbridge was stepping in the doorway, wrapped in a green tweed cloth that grandly enhanced her resemblance to a giant toad, and smiling in the horribly, sickly, ominous way that I might come to associate with imminent misery. May I help? Professor McGonagall asked Professor Umbridge in her most um, poisonously sweet voice. Blood rushed into Professor McGonagall's face.
Help! She repeated in a concentrated voice. What do you mean help? Professor Umbridge moved forward into the office, still smiling her sickly smile. Why, I thought you might be grateful for a little extra authority. Harry would not have been surprised to see spark fly from Professor McGonagall's nostrils. You saw it wrong, she said, turning her back on Umbridge. No, you two had better listen closely. I do not care what provocation Malfoy offer you. I do not care if he insulted every family member you process. Your behavior was distressing, and I am giving each of you a week's worth of detentions. Do not look at me like that. What do you deserve? And if either of you ever. Professor Mrs. McGonagall closed her eyes as though praying for Bethan as she turned her face toward Professor Umbridge again. Yes, I think they deserve rather more than detention, said Umbridge, smiling still more broadly. Professor Mrs. McGonagall's eyes flew open. But unfortunately, she said with an attempt at reciprocal smiles that made her look as though she had lockjaw. It is what I think then counts, as they are in my house dollars. Well, actually, Minerva, tempted Umbridge, I think you'll find that what I think does count. No, where is it? Cornelius just sent it. I mean, she gave a little false launch as she reimagined in her handbag. The minister just sent it. Oh, yes, she had pulled over a pace of patements that she now unfolded, clearing her thoughts crazily before trying to read what it said. Education degrees number 25. Not another one. Examen, Professor Mrs. McGonagall violently.
Well, yes, said Umbridge, still smiling. As a matter of the fact, Minerva, it was you made me see that we needed her to imagine. You remember how you override me when I was invited to allow the Gryffindor Quidditch team to reform me? How you took the cat to Dumbledore, who insisted that the team to allowed it to play? Well, how I can't have that. I contacted the Minister of Arts and he wanted agreeing with me. that the High Inquisitor has to have the power to strip people of privilege, or that is to say I would have less authority than common teachers. And you see now down to Minerva how right I was in attempting to stop them Gryffindor team to reform. Dreadful tempers. Anyway, I was reading out amendment. His High Inquisitor will henceforth have supreme authority over all panic questions and questions, and the removal of privilege pertaining to the students of Hogwarts, and the power to alter such panic questions and questions, and the removal of privilege as may be ordered by other staff members. Signed Cornelius Farge, Minister of Magic, Order of Marine First Class, and etc. She rolled up the parchment and put back into her headband, still smiling. So, I really think I will have to ban this from playing Quidditch ever again, she said, looking from Harry to George and back again. Harry felt the snitch fluttering mainly in his hand. Bananas, he said, and his voice sounded striking distant from planning ever again. Yes, Mr. Potter, I think a lifeline bound onto that tree. Then Umbridge, her smile widening still further as she watched him straining to comprehend what she had said. Not Mr. Weasley here, and I think to be safe is young man's twin or to be stopped to if his tomatoes had not rested him. I feel sure he would have attacked Mr. Malfoy as well. I will want Zion broomsticks confiscated, of course. I shall keep them safe in my office to make.
Sure, there is no infringement of my ban, but I am not unreasonable, Professor McGonagall. She concluded, turning back to Professor McGonagall, who was now standing as still as though carved from ice, staring at her. The rest of the team can compute playing as so now signs of violence from any of them. Well, good afternoon to you. And with a look of the utmost satisfaction, Umbridge left the room, leaving a horrified silence in her wake. When Angelina, in a hollow voice, laid the evening in the common room, but now sickened and now bitter, what on earth are going to do? It did not feel though they had won the match at all. Everywhere Harry looked, there were disconsolate and angry faces. The team ramps were slant around the fire was apart from Ron, who had now been since the end of the match. It just so unfair, said Alicia numbly. I mean for about Crabbe and that blunder he hit, after the whistle had been blown. Has she banned him? Now, Jimmy Miserably, she and Hermione were sitting on either side of Harry. He just got lines. I heard Montague laughing about it dinner, and banning Fred when he didn't invent anything, said Alicia fiercely, pommeling her with her piece.
Maybe this will all turn out to have been a bad dream. Maybe I wake up tomorrow and find we haven't played yet. She was soon followed by Alicia and Katy. Fred and George sloped off to bed some time later, glowering at everyone they passed, and Ginny went not long after that. Only Harry and Hermione were left beside the fire. Have you seen Ron? Hermione asked in a low voice. Harry shook his head. I think he's avoiding us, said Hermione. Where do you think he? But at the precise moment there was a creaking sound behind them as the fat lady swung forward and Ron came clambering toward the portrait hole. He was very pale indeed, and there was snow in his hair. When he saw Harry and Hermione, he stopped dead in his tracks. Where have you been? Said Hermione anxiously. springing up. Walking, Ron mumbled. He was still wearing his Quidditch things. You look frozen, said Hermione. Come and sit down. Ron walked to the tree side and sank into the chair farthest from Harry's, not looking at him. The stolen snitch zoomed over their heads. I'm sorry, Ron mumbled, looking at his fat. What for? Said Harry. For thinking I can play Quidditch, said Ron. I'm going to Recigen first thing tomorrow. If you're Recigen, said Harry, testily, there'll only be 3 players left on the team. And when Ron looked puzzled, said, I've been given a lifetime ban. So Fred and George. What? Ron replied. Hermione told him the full story. Harry could not bear to tell it again. When she had finished, Ron looked more anguished than ever.
This is all my fault. You didn't make me punch Malfoy, said Harry angrily. If I won so loosely at Quidditch, it's got nothing to do with that. It was a song that wound me up. It won't anyone up. Hermione got up and walked to the window, away from our argument. Watch the snow swirling. Down again the pane. Look, drop it, will you? Harry burst out. Is bad anything watching you blooming yourself or everything? Ron said nothing, but sat gazing miserably at the dumb hem of his robes. After a while he said in a dull voice, This is the worst I will ever feel in my life. Join the club, said Harry bitterly. Well, said Hermione, her voice trembling slightly. I can think of the things that might check your burst up. Oh yes, said Harry checkingly. Yes, said Hermione, turning away from the pitchback snowflake window, a broad smile sketching across her face. Harden's back.